Please, recording has started. Ensure you don't display sensitive information on the screen. So, we want to look at classes and constructors. Truthfully, we may choose to ignore this part for one reason. In React, you have two options. You can either use a class component or a functional component. So, for most of those things we'll be doing, we'll be using a functional component. But then, when before root codes, you'll be saying class components a lot. And in fact, we'll look at it. But basically, we focus more on functional components in the course of the training. But it's good you know the two, whether class-based components or functional component, both of them, you can use any of them. But because of the time we'll be looking at class-based components, I will revise these classes and constructors with us. But if all you'll be using is just the functional components, you may not necessarily need this one. So let's start. A class. A class is a blueprint, like I explained to us. This is just a revision class. A class is a framework. It's like a blueprint that you construct things from. Like I likened it to a building plan. So when you have a building plan, you can construct things out of that building plan. Now, and if you construct a lot of things from the same, let's say you construct a lot of houses from the same building plan, then expectedly they will be alike, they will look alike, since they are all from the same source. A class is like a building plan, then that you can use to construct building. Building in this case is the object. So you want to use a class to construct an object. And to create a class in JavaScript, you write this class keyword. You use a class when it's time to create many objects. Like most times, that's one of the reasons we use classes. When you want to create a lot of lookalike objects, then you use a class. It makes it very easy to create similar objects. Now, to create a class, you just use this word class keyword. When JavaScript sees this class keyword, it will create a class for you. Next, you write the name of the class. A class starts with a capital letter. So I can say I want to create a class called student. Well, if you write small letter, it will still work, but then it's good to follow conventions. Please let your class be in upper case and not in lower case. Then next thing is you want to define the body of the class. The body of the class. To define the body of the class, you put this. So whatever information you want to give to your class will be inside that curly braces. So I can say, remember, the end of a class is for us to create an object. Don't forget, the end of a class is for us to create an object. That's the end point. That's the end goal where we are going to. But then we are first creating a class. So I'm saying, let this class, let it have a property called name, and let the value of name be Taye. Let it have another property called state, and let the value of the state be Ondo. So now this class has two properties. One is name, and the other is state. So remember I said the class is a blueprint. So what you want to do is, after creating a blueprint or after creating a building plan, the next is you want to construct a building out of the building plan. So let's see how to construct a building out of our building plan. To do that, you just create a variable. Let's maybe new student equals to. Now, whenever you want to create any object out of a class, you use this word new is a keyword. Whenever you want to create an object out of a class, you use this new new keyword. So you now say new student. So what you are doing here is we are creating a new instance of students. So we are just saying that come here, create an object out of this student and assign that whatever object you create, assign it to variable new student. So I can now say console log this variable new student. So when we run it on the browser, we'll see our results. So let's check the terminal. So we have this object. Next thing, I can say new student dot state. Of course, that will give me Ondo. So this is an object. Note this is not a class.
What's right on?
Yes, sir.
Sir, please. I'm very sorry for disturbing you. Sir, please.
No problem, sir.
That thing you explained, sir, can you explain it back?
Which thing?
That student.
Okay. This is a class.
Yes,
I
sir.
explained to us that a class is a blueprint. A class is like a building plan. It is not the building. It is just a plan.
Okay.
Meaning that after creating the building plan, there will still be a need for you to create a building out of the plan, right?
Yes, sir.
So this is the building plan. Next is you want to create a building out of the building plan. Our foresight, our priority is not even the class itself, no. Our priority or our focus is the objects. That is our concern. We are only using this class to create an object. We only want to make the process of creating an object easier. That's why we are using a class. But the class is not the end goal. It is just like a means to an end. We are going somewhere, which is objects. That's our focus. But then
Yes, sir.
we are just using this class to create it. So meaning that, let me remove this for now. Meaning that after creating this class, the question will still be, where is the object?
The object.
So to create an object out of a class, we create a variable, give it any name, and say new, then the name of this class, student. So what we are doing is this. We have this new keyword. This is a keyword, and what it does is it helps us to create an object out of a class. So it's going to create new instance of students and assign it to this variable A. Do we understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's move on. So next we can now say console log A. So A is an object now, not a class. A is an object. Then we can now say A.state. And you will see on the or A.name. I'll see title.
Wow.
Next is you can add methods to your class. So let's add a method. Remember, same way your object can have, these are properties. So your object can have properties and methods. In the same way, your class can also have properties and methods. So I can say maybe show name. So this is a method of the class. Then what do I want this method to do? Maybe I just want it to alert hello world. So next is I can say a dot show name. Remember, this is an object, so I can now say a dot show name. So this is a method, right? That's why we are using this parenthesis. That's just how this parenthesis are different. So when you run it, you see hello world. Any question?
Wow, wow, wow. Thanks, sir.
Please, do you have question?
No, sir.
Okay, alright. So let's move on. Next is you can this can be a parameterized function. So I can pass a value here. Let's say it's so I can say var say let's just say plus var. So that becomes hello world 8. Next, I want to display this name. This time around, I want to display this name. So I can now say hello plus I will use this dot name. Now, if I just use hello plus name, if I use hello plus name, it will assume that there's a variable inside this method called name. Remember, I've explained this when we dealt with objects. That if you want to access the properties of that same object, you use this. So this becomes this dot name, so that it can access this name. This now displays hello Taye. Next, we want to look at constructors. What a constructor is. A constructor is like this method, but it's a special method of the class. So let's write it out. And this is a keyword. A constructor is a special method of a class. What it does is this. The constructor is the one that is actually responsible for constructing an object out of the class. It is the one responsible. When you call on this new will be the one to call on the constructor. So the truth is that every class has a constructor, whether it is written or not. The constructor is responsible for constructing an object out of a class. So when you call on new, then you put the class name. This new, we go ahead and call on the constructor and do whatever you have inside the constructor. And since the constructor is the one that is responsible for constructing an object out of the class, this new we now create an object out of the class. Do you understand what a constructor does? Please, do you have any question?
Please, can you come again, Ty?
Okay. The constructor is the one responsible for is a special function. And what it does is that it is the one responsible for constructing or for creating an object out of a class. Don't forget that this is a class, but this class itself is not so useful to us. We need to create an object out of it. And in order to do that, we are using this new keyword. This new keyword will help us to create an object out of it. But the question is, how is the new keyword able to create an object out of the class? What it does is that it calls on the constructor of the class. The constructor of the class will now be the one to create an object out of the class. So every class has a constructor. Every class has a constructor, because it is the constructor that is responsible for creating an object out of it. Whether it is written or not, whether it is there or not, it actually has a constructor. That's why we are able to create an object out of that class. Do you understand?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let's move on. This constructor now, let's now do some things with it. I can just say alert. Good. Now, before running this, I want to ask a question. I want to remove this for now. If I run this on the browser, what will I see?
So which one?
If I run this code, the code on the screen, if I run it on the browser, what will I see?
Nothing, sir.
Okay, good. Nothing. That's because I didn't call on this method, and because it's the only method that is displaying something on the page. But once I call on this method, then it will run the code inside this page. If you alert hello, is the name hello Taye. Next, but if I do this and I run it, I will see good. Even though I didn't call on the constructor, I will see it's going to display this good. Reason is because remember I said the constructor, this new keyword is the one that calls on the constructor. So at this point, in fact, even if I remove this, at this point, the constructor is triggered, meaning that it's going to run the codes inside the constructor. That would make it to alert good. Even though I didn't call on constructor, I didn't say this. In fact, you are not even allowed to call on the constructor. You are not allowed to. So whenever I want to call on constructor, this new keyword is the one responsible for that, and is the one that will be help us to call on constructor. So at this point, the constructor will be triggered, meaning it will alert good. Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay. Let's move on. So this will now display good, and it will display hello Taye. Now, a common practice is to cut this one out of this place and make it inside the constructor, so that this becomes this dot name and this dot state. So this is a common practice, because if I don't put this, if I don't put this name and this state will just be a local variable to the constructor. I won't be able to access it here. So the common practice is to put it inside the constructor, and the reason is because if it's inside the constructor like this, it's the same thing as we putting it out here the way we did the other time. Name states is the same. It will give us the same result. The reason is because look at this, the constructor, this new keyword, we trigger the constructor. At this point, it will run the code inside the constructor, meaning that instantly it will help us to set name and state on the student. You know, we are saying that this dot name, that is set it on the parent of the constructor, which is student. Abina, I explained what this does. This dot name, I'm just saying, go to the parent of this constructor and set name on it, meaning it will quickly come here and put name here as Taye. Then this dot state, it will quickly come here and put state here as Ondo. Do we understand? Boys, do we understand?
Yes.
Okay. So, but then this now gives us one advantage. The advantage is that I can now come and make this flexible. I can say name and state like this. Well, N and S is fine, I think. N and S is fine. So, I want to pass values to these ones, so that this dot name will be whatever the value of N is, and this dot state will be whatever the value of S is. The reason we are doing this is that, give me a minute, let me do something. Okay, look at something. If I create 1,000 variables from this student, all of them we have their names as Taye and their state as Ondo. Abinal.
Yes.
A, we have his name as Taye and state as Ondo. B, we have his name as Taye and state as Ondo. That's not what, well, maybe that's not what we want. We want this to be somehow flexible, so that if I wish the name to be Taye, I can easily set it, and if I wish the name to be Kenny, I can set it again. I don't want a situation whereby all of them will have the same name and state. I want this to be somehow flexible, and the constructor makes that possible for us. So if you don't want to change it, you can just put it directly here like we did the other time. But if you want it to be dynamic, then place it in the constructor. Place in the constructor. So I'll come here and say n, then s. This dot name is n. That is, let the name be whatever I send as the value of name, and let the state be whatever I set as the value of states. So let's now come here and do something. I want to pass values to these things. I want to pass parameters to these arguments here. And since there's no point in my code where we did something like this, so how do we go about it? As explained to us, you are going to pass it directly to the class. Whatever you put here will be passed to the constructor. Whatever you put here will be sent straight to the constructor of the class. So I can say you can be Taye and Oyo. So for this word, you can be Kenny and Annabelle. Oh. So for the first person, for this variable A, Taye will be passed at the value of n, and Oyo will be passed at the value of s, such that this dot name will be Taye and this dot state will be Oyo. For the second one, Kenny will be passed at the value of n, and Annabelle will be passed at the value of s, so that this dot name will be Kenny and this dot state will be Annabelle. Do we understand?
Yes, sir.
So if I say
Yes, sir.
console log a dot name, you see Taye, and if I say console log b dot name, you see Kenny. So let's look at class inheritance. Any questions so far?
Yes, sir. I have a question, sir.
Alright, sir.
So what if, let's say, we want to let the parameter be, what's it called, a user's input? How can we do it? Let's say whatever a user puts in, so we want to pass it as a parameter through the constructor and regenerate the class to it. I don't know if you get my question.
Okay, maybe you want it to be user's input.
Exactly.
You can do that by attaching it to a function. Depending, the easiest way to go about it would be to do something like this. And click. I should have, if we had enough, like I should have given us something around this, but I didn't want to dwell too much on classes when we did it. Then that's because when we get to React, we'll be using more functional components. Let's assume it was the days of class-based components. I would have taken my time, would have dwelt more on classes, but this is functional components are now more popular, and in fact I think the React team also, they made it obvious that they are going to what's it called, they are focusing more on functional components. So that's why we didn't have enough time to look at classes and I mean to do projects on them. We'd have done something like this along the line. Let's say I have a function called my func. Click in. So you can come here and do something like this. Maybe cost my func. Oh. Okay. Then let's say I have an input here. ID over. Let's imp equals to var.value. So I can now say cut. Do you get it, sir?
Yes, sir.
So when you click on this button, to call on this function, on the cuts here, then get the value inside of these inputs, then new students imp, that is whatever you get here, pass it to the class so the constructor can make use of it. So when we run it on browser, let's say James, click on it. When you check the terminal, you will see James. Do you have any other question? Okay, let's quickly talk about class inheritance. I want us to look at asynchronous codes tonight before we go. We'll be using it also in our next, start from next week. We'll be using it. So let's quickly look at class inheritance before we go to asynchronous codes. So, for class inheritance, use a situation whereby a class inherits information from another class. That is, a class inherits properties and methods of another class. Imagine this. Imagine department equals to software. So I want to create another class. I also want the new class to have these same departments. The departments here are software also. But then I want it to have other things that are not inside this first one. So what I can just say, I can say that this first class should give birth to another class. When a parent class gives birth to a child's class, the child's class inherits everything in the parent. So I can say class child extends student. So what this means is that this is the parent and this one is the child. I'm just saying that this child is an extension of student. You can give it any name of your choice. And let me just say class any name. So I'm just saying this any name is an extension of student, meaning that is the child is a child to this student. Then I can now add other things. I can say, let's say school. Let's say is this. So whenever you create any class, any object out of the first one, out of the parent, it will only have this property. But whenever you create any object out of the child, it will have this and this. Again, whenever you create any object out of the parent, it will only have this property. But whenever you create any object out of this child, it will have both this and this. Let's do that together. Variable A equals to new student. So I can now say console log A. So let's run it on the browser. We only have students in department inside student. You only have department there. But let's get something out of B. Out of any name, the second one, the child. So now we are creating A out of the child. It will have this and this. So we have department and school. And it's not just inheriting properties alone, it also inherits methods. Meaning that if I have a method here, let's say it's display verbs. Please don't forget all of these things as we move into React, please. That's why I'm bringing it back, to refresh our memory on it. Please, it's because these things are important. So let's say what you do is alert this does department. Remember, this is inside the student, but it's not inside any name. But because it has inherited it, because this is an extension of this, automatically we can come here and say a dot display department, and it's a alert software. Then lastly on this part, we want to introduce constructor to both of them. So this department, I want to bring it inside the constructor. And I will introduce constructor to this also. This school, I will lift it and take it to the constructor. Now, if I'm creating something out of the student class, there is no problem. But if I try to create anything out of this one, there will be problem. Note, in JavaScript, a child class needs to, if you are introducing a constructor inside a child class, there are some things to do. If you are introducing other methods, there is no problem. But once you are introducing constructor inside a child class, this is a child class, then you need to pay homage to this parent. You need to respect the parents. All you need to do is just come to this place and say super. It's compulsory. This super represents the presence of the parent class. You are just saying that I respect the fact that my parent also has a constructor. Again, in JavaScript, whenever you need to introduce a constructor in a child class, then you need to add this word super to it. So if I remove this super, it's going to throw back an error. That is error. So bring it back, and there will be no error. But let's quickly fix one of the things before we do this part. Now, if I take something out of the parent, which is student, student is the parent class. I want to pass something here, maybe. So I can come here and say this. I'm passing hardware to this student, to this department, so that this depth will be hardware. So if I now say a dot display department, it will be hardware. Remember, I'm creating a new instance of the parent class, which is student. So it's fine. What if I want to do the same thing here also? SCH, so that this is school will be SCH. Now there is a little issue. To understand the issue we have at hand, whatever value you pass here, remember this child also has these two, like it has inherited both of them, this and this. So somehow you want this child to have both department and school, because that's the reason we are introducing class inheritance. That's the reason for this topic. You are doing this because you don't want to rewrite this inside this place, meaning that you want this child class to have both department and school. But if you pass any value here, let's say I pass department, I pass, let's say, software here. This software will be sent as the value of this SCH, meaning that there is no way we'll be able to have access to this department because this one now has its own constructor. I come again. Please, do we understand what I'm saying, or are we confused? Please, do you understand?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this, whenever you put any value here, it will be sent to this constructor and not this one. That's because we are calling on any name, which is this one. It will be sent to its constructor. That makes this constructor useless. And if the constructor is useless, then this one will not also have much value, because the value of department will always be undefined since you didn't set department. So that's not what we want. We want this any name to be able to make use of this one also, meaning it will be using this and this at the same time. So we can do something. You can come here and pass two values. So how then do we undo it? You come here and pass 1, 2 also. So it's not a must to call it that. You can call it anything and just call it 3. You can call it anything. This will be sent as the value of this. This will be sent as the value of this. Note, the parent is the one responsible for setting the department. So I can now put D here. What I'm saying is this. This 2 will be sent to this 2. But you are passing this D to super. Remember, super represents the presence of the parent class. Super represents the parent of the parent class. So when you put this here, it will be sent straight to the constructor of the parent. Do you understand?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So this will be sent straight to the constructor of the parent, so that the parent can now set it and you can now make use of it, so that this can work very well now. So that's about class inheritance. Any question? So finally, I think one more topic to check tonight is async. I think I didn't teach us when we did JavaScript, but that's because we didn't make any asynchronous code. But I think it's the last chapter in that textbook. Async and promises. Async and promises. Let's go. Let's first discuss the meaning of asynchronous. We want to look at async. Async is a short form of asynchronous. Now, I think the easiest way to understand asynchronous is first to understand synchronous. Asynchronous is the opposite of synchronous. Synchronous means in sequence. Let's say I have this console log. Let's say hello console log, hi, and console log good. I have these 3 lines. If I run it on the browser, I'll see them just exact way that we have it. That is, this will be first, this second, and this third. This is synchronous code, meaning in sequence. Do we get synchronous now?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
But asynchronous, mean in asynchronous code, you are saying that this thing should not occur in sequence. Somehow, maybe you want this good to even be the first to be displayed. That is what asynchronous does. It's not going to be in the sequence that you have it here. It won't be. So let's quickly write asynchronous code. So I can, easiest way to understand asynchronous code is to use the set timeout. What is the function of set timeout? We've looked at it.
It's used to determine when the particular code should be
Sir?
executed.
So, what did you say?
I said it's used to determine or to specify when the particular line of code should be executed, or probably want to do something and you want it to happen a particular time.
Good.
So you can use the keyword.
Thank you, sir. So, set timeout can be used to delay codes or to delay for a particular period of time. So we can say, remember, is an HOF higher order function. So I want to say alert console. Let's use our console log since what does our console log? So 1 second. Now if I run this code, I'll see hello, I'll see good before saying I. Because JavaScript, when it sees this, it will console log hello. Immediately it sees this set timeout, it won't even wait. It will come here and display good. Then when the 1 second, after 1 second, it will now display I. Hello, good, I. The codes above, they are asynchronous codes. Do we understand?
Yes.
Okay. So now we want to look at promises. Since you understand asynchronous code, we want to look at promises and why we need promises. Yeah, you see, this asynchronous code usually leads to another problem, and this is the problem. Imagine you are building your application and this line 16 needs this, needs the result of this. I don't know if you get it. You need, maybe because if you are getting something from an endpoint from elsewhere, you know, it's possible for you. If you are fetching data from database, it's not something that will occur instantly. It's something that takes time. Are we getting it?
Yes.
Yes, boss.
Yes,
If you
sir.
are fetching something from database or from backend, it's usually not something that happens instantly. These are things that usually take time. Now, there are two options you have. Option number one, will you delay everything on your page till what you are fetching arrives? That's one problem. Option number two, will you, how do I explain this part? Will you continue to fetch it? Let me make us understand this. Look at this. Remember I said when you fetch something from backend, it's not something that happens immediately. So now imagine you have this good. This good does not rely on this. It does not depend on the information or this information. Maybe this is just the name of, let's say, in my application I have welcome. Here I'm fetching name. Maybe I'm fetching student's name. Then here I'm fetching let's say CEO name. Now in this number one welcome, student name does not rely on CEO name. Like, I shouldn't in any way delay this because I'm fetching student name. The code here does not rely on this. Abi now.
Yes.
So this is fine. Meaning I can first display CEO name before displaying student name. There is no problem with that. This is fine. But in some scenario, this information here relies on the information you are fetching also. Meaning that you need to also find a way of delaying this. Imagine inside this place I have a variable called name, and this name is Taye, and I want to say console log name. Good. Do you get what is going on? Let me make it easy so that it's not going to go back at any error. Let's see where name is this. I want us to understand why we are doing this thing. Variable name started as undefined. Inside this set timeout, I'm setting the value of name to Taye, and here I'm saying console log name.
Name.
When we run it, you know this line 17, we not wait for this, Abi.
Yes.
We've established that it's not going to wait. So meaning that when we check the console now, you will see undefined as the value of name. Do you get it? Shut it down.
No, sir.
Please come again.
Let's go again. Now we have this name. Name at the beginning. Name started as undefined. I'm imagining or I'm assuming that I'm fetching this from a back end. And I told us that when you're fetching information from the back end, it doesn't occur immediately. I've been now.
Yes.
It doesn't happen
Yes.
immediately. So next, you want to display that name that you are fetching from the back end. You want to display it to maybe log it to the console. So if I put this here, there will be a problem. The problem is that this line 17 we not wait for this set time out because naturally JavaScript is synchronous. It's JavaScript is asynchronous. Naturally JavaScript is asynchronous. It's not going to wait. Whatever takes time, JavaScript will not stop for it. This is taking my time. It will just go to the next turn. Do we understand?
Yes.
So
Yes, sir.
since this one is taking time, instead of it to wait, instead it will go straight to log name to the console. And since the value of this name is still undefined, because it's here to fetch this information from the back end. You know
And
this is occurring after 1 second. This is taking time. It will log this before doing this. So when we run it, you will see undefined. Okay, just empty. Do we understand what is going on here?
yes.
Yes, in your
The name is
vocab-
not available yet.
Yeah, you understand it. The name is not available yet. That now leads us to promises. Well, how a promise works is this. This line will now make a promise and tell this line that I promise you that I will give you an information. Wait for me. Do you understand?
Mm-hmm.
It's telling that don't go yet. Wait for me. I am promising you an information. When my information arrives, then you can now run. You can now execute. So it's like this line. We find a way to delay line 17. Do you get how what is going on?
Yes.
So
Yes,
that is
sir.
how promises work. In this part, we send a message and tell this line that wait for me. When I am with a result, then you can now execute. But then not all promises are fulfilled. Not all. Promises may be rejected or fulfilled. Now,
Sir, please come again.
promises may either be rejected, meaning it may fail.
Okay.
A promise may fail, or
Yes.
it may eventually be fulfilled.
Successful.
But whichever way, this line 17, we still wait for that response. The response can either be a fulfilled promise or a rejected promise. Do you understand what's going on?
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
sir.
So, but whichever way, this will still wait for hits. But it will this set time out will definitely give us one out of the two. Note, not all promises are fulfilled. If the promise is not fulfilled, then meaning this name will not be fetched. It means we only delayed line 17 unnecessarily because at the end of the day, it won't be able to console to log name to the console. Do we get that part?
Yes, sir.
The idea we assume that the promise will be fulfilled. That's why we are delaying line 17. But it's also possible for the promise not to be fulfilled. If it's not fulfilled, this name will still not be fetched because this is unable to fetch. If this is unable to fetch name, then there's no way. If this is unable to fetch this taye, there's no way this name can be taye abina.
Yes.
So
Yes.
at the end of the day, we only delay this for nothing. Now let's now see how to use promises. Um, I won't go too deep into promises. I will just use a library that we end up using when we start our what's it called? React.js. Axios, we call it Axios. At this stage, you don't need to worry yourself about how to write promises. Let me put it this way. You don't need to worry yourself about what happens here. Mm-mm. What you need to worry yourself about at this stage is how to receive the information. As a front-end developer, you are receiving, you are getting information from the server, from the back end. So you don't worry yourself about the information. What you worry yourself about is how do I receive this information? We are assuming that this is the back end. Remember I said back end doesn't happen immediately. It takes time. When you are fetching information from server, they take
Yes.
time. So this is like the server now, and it's not something that occurs immediately. But don't worry yourself about it. What you need to worry yourself about is how do I use the information or the promise, how the information delivers to me by the promise. How do I make use of it? So I'm going to be using a library called Axios. I will use, let me say, Axios CDN. Okay, yeah, I can make use of this one. I'll just copy this and use it in my code. Axios is a JavaScript library also, just like React, but this is mainly used to handle promises. I mean to fetch information from server and the likes. You can read more on Axios. Now, having put this in my code, I now have access to the Axios codes. So I can now use Axios within my own codes. Next, I want to fetch information from a back end. So I love using JSON placeholder. It's an ancestor website. JSON placeholder. Yeah. Oh. You can just Google JSON placeholder. This is a website. JSON placeholder. Okay. You see this fetch, we could have used this, but I think this takes a lot of time. This is inbuilt in JavaScript. If you are using this, you don't need this Axios again. You don't need this. But I tell you, when we get to React, we won't be using fetch API. You'll be using Axios. Axios has made your life, it has made our life so easy. So that's why I'm just introducing Axios immediately. Now, so we are not using this, but we are doing the same thing, but just that we are not using this. Next is, I want to fetch information from backend. So, I can say, let me introduce a function. Maybe, I can say fetch info. Fetch. F, is it spelling, no? So when I click on this button, I want to fetch information from backend, and this information I want to fetch. So these are backend. This website, jplaceholder.typical/post/1. Look at how it looks like. I'm coming. I think we can scroll down. Okay, yeah. You have posts, you have to-dos, you have albums, you have photos, you have comments. I think there is user. Maybe the user has been removed. They used to have users. Okay, oh sorry, these users. Okay. Yeah. Like whereby you only see username. Let's just use post for now. This is the link. JSON placeholder.typical.com/users/1/posts. If I want to fetch the information of the first user, I want to fetch the information of the first post. This will be /1. I only see the first post. Oh, what's going on? Okay. Okay, it should be on their website. I want us to find it easy whenever you want to go back to it. You are not using fetch API. Just saying, let's say that. I've seen what I'm looking for, but when you are using it, maybe when you get to their website, you're not, yeah. You should be able to make use of this. Good. This is what I'm looking for. Now, posts, we have 100 posts. Comments, we have 500 comments. Here we have 100 albums, depending on what you want to use. They are just for testing. Now, I love using
Okay.
users because of just 10 users. You're not fetching a lot of information. So I will right click and open it. If I want to fetch all users, I will just say jc placeholder.typical slash users. I'm assuming that this is our back end. We are fetching this information from the back end. That's the assumption. We want to see how to go about it. If I want to fetch just one user, it will be slash one. That to fetch the first user for us. If I want to look at the name of the first user, Lynn Graham, username is Brett. This is the email and the address and all of that. If I want to fetch the second user, that will be slash 2. This is Evan Owell, username and all of that. So we can fetch any of these users, any of them. So let's say I want to fetch just the first user. And let me get our function const fetch info equals to this. Of course, you know that when I click on this button, it's going to call on this function called fetch info. Next, we now say axios dot get. Well, if you ask me where the axios is coming from, it is from this script stack. It can, whenever you want to fetch info, you use gets. If you want to send something to the backend, you use post. Do we get it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
So
boss.
there are other methods anyway, but when we start server-side program, we look at other methods. But for now, for our React work, we'll be using get and post for most of those things we'll be doing. But just know, if you are getting information from backend, you use get. If you are sending information to the backend, you use post.
Post.
So axios.get. Then next is the URL that you are getting information from. I'm getting it from this URL. This will fetch the second user. Just into placeholder.typical. I'm assuming that these are back end. So paste it. It will be in the quotes. Paste it here. Next, I want to now see, because I want to display the information that we are fetching. Look at something. This will take time, right? Remember I said when you are fetching information from the server, it will take time. This will not occur immediately. If I put anything here, console log, good. This will occur before this, because this will take time. But maybe I now want some things that are dependent on this. I want to delay some codes till the arrival of this. So I will now use promise. Dot then. This dot then is like this is like a promise. You are saying that whatever we have inside, you put a function inside this then. You put a function inside this place. So whatever is inside this then will be delayed till the arrival of this URL. Do we get what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. So next, we are going to place a function there. Let's put a function there. You can use your ES6 function also if you want to. But the function must be a parameterized function. So this is a parameterized function. If you are using ES5, you would have written it like this. You would have written it like, but since you are using ES6, just put a function there. Do we get it? So whatever
Yes.
you will see from the back end will be set as the value of this res. This res has a lot of things in it. Like it can be anything. You can call it response. You can just give it any name of your choice. It just has handled how the rest will work. Whatever, just put anything here. But it stands for the response that you are getting from the server. It serves as the that's how you usually say response or resp or res. But the idea is that it just stands for response from the server. So next is I can now say console.response so that we see how it looks like. Now, you will see this good before this response. I'll press another text here, console.hi. You will see this good before I, because this is outside the promise. Why these two? They are within the promise. Do we get this now?
Yes.
Okay. So let's run it.
Sir, please come again. I say what?
This good will be displayed before these two
Yes, yes.
because it is outside this promise and it's not going to wait for this to happen. It won't wait. So let's run it on the browser and see the result. Oh, sorry. This should be the page. Oh, I need to click on the button. Click me. I've clicked on the button. Let's go to the console now. So we have the good, which is this one. We have I, then the response. Let's now see how the response look like. It's an object. It has a lot of things that maybe we are not used to. But this is the information we need. It is inside data. So all you need to do is response.data. The reason I'm showing us this is I want to show us why we'll be using .data for most of the things. You just say response.data. It contains the data that you are fetching from the back end. So click on the button again now. So this is the information that you are getting from the back end. So I can now make use of it in my code. I can assign it to a variable if I want to. I can do whatever I want with it. Any question?
Good.
Any question? Any question?
Hello, sir.
Yes, sir.
The question might not be necessary, but then, uh, is it consoling like your line 17? Is it because we are online? Will it still respond even if you are not using the internet? Like
No,
my assumption was like,
it won't work.
my assumption, oh, if you are offline, right?
Yes, it won't work because
Okay.
it won't be able to fetch this information. In that case, it will be a rejected promise. Remember, I said promises are either fulfilled or rejected.
So it is network that will cause rejection.
Yes, the network we didn't want to cause the rejection, so it won't work. We can handle the rejection later. We see how to handle rejections, but now we are assuming that our promise will be this will be fulfilled. It will be fulfilled. That's the assumption now. When you put this, then when the promise gets fulfilled, it will run the quotes inside the then. But if it gets rejected, it will do something else. We'll look at the something else hopefully tonight or some other time. If time permits, we can check it out tonight. But most times, at the front end though, if what will affect your promise is usually incorrect URL. Most times. Of course, internet. Of course, anybody that will be visiting your page will be connected online to the internet. Most times, what usually affects promises are usually URL. Then note, a promise is considered accepted if it's able to visit this URL successfully. This part is very important. If it's able to visit that URL successfully, it is considered accepted, even though there may be error on that page. How do I explain this? Okay, look at it this way. Imagine that in this place, I'm trying to visit this and fetch information there. Meanwhile, on the server, where's our server? On the back end, they are not giving me the right information. The back end is not giving me the right information. If there's error at the back end, it will still be regarded as a fulfilled promise. That's what I want us to know. That's how funny it can be. There may be error at the server, but once it's able to visit that URL successfully, then it will be considered a fulfilled promise. That's not the work of the front-end developer, it's the work of the back-end developer to fix that. Front-end developer, your work is to ensure that, oh, I'm able to visit this, like you're able to visit this URL and fetch the information there, and it's be considered a fulfilled promise. But if it's unable to visit this URL, then it will be considered as rejected promise. Do we get it?
Promise. Okay.
Okay. So this we want to look at async await. Async await. Sometimes you see this then dots then. Some other times you see people use async await. So let's see how async await works. Async await is shorter than writing this. It is shorter, or maybe in my opinion, it is neater. It is shorter than using these dots. Then this is promise, but async await was introduced with ES6 as a shorter way of writing promise. Not just that, it has some advantages. Okay, let's see how this works. To use async await, all you need to do is just to come here and put async. When you put async like that, it tells the page that this function is an asynchronous function. At some point in time, it will try to fetch information from somewhere that will take time. That's just what it does. It is this, by having this async, it's a way of telling this page that, okay, this is an asynchronous. Please, this is very important. You need to add this async keyword. Next is, remember I said purpose of async await is to replace this dot then. So you save it as a variable instead. Let's response equals to this. So this will go and fetch the information in this URL to fetch it for you and save it as response. Do we get it?
Yes.
Okay. So you can now use that response. You can now say console log response, but we are not done. There's something we are still getting one keyword. If I run this, it will
We
not.
don't, see,
Is that?
we don't need to use the response of data anymore.
No, we still say it will still be the same response that like we saw the other time. We still need dots data. Do we get it? It will be the same response that we saw the other time. So in order to access your information, you need dots data.
Data.
But then if you run this code, somehow it's not going to give us our results. That's because we are omitting one keyword. What's going on? Why is it not displaying the results? Let me show us. Now we have this I. Why is it not even? I even expect it to show I. Oh, we are inside the function, so you need to click on this button first. Okay, let's click. Undefined I. Why is it undefined? JavaScript does not know the exact line that will take time. Async has already informed JavaScript that a part of this code will take time, but it doesn't know the exact one that we actually that it needs to delay. I don't know if you get it.
Yes.
It knows that okay, can it be line 14? It doesn't know. Line 15? It doesn't know. Line 16? It doesn't know. It doesn't. So what you do is you now come here and add await. Anything after this await, we wait for this line to be executed. Anything outside the await, we wait for this line to finish before proceeding. I'll come here and put console log. Good. Because this good is before the await, it won't wait, it will be displayed immediately. But you see the high here. this I will be delayed until until we get a response on this pass. Show you what. Show you what.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anything out after await keyword will be delayed till this line is executed, meaning that line 16 and 17 will be delayed till end of this line. So I can click on this now. We see good. Now we now have this. If this to take more, if this should take more time, this I will also take more time because it is after it. So that is async await. Async await. How to make use of it. So I think we are done with um, promises and asynchronous. I think the only thing we can just look at is maybe error handling. You know, I told you your promise can be rejected. So you can, if it's
Yes.
rejected, that is error handling. You can check it out in that textbook. I think it's explanatory. Maybe like chapter 22 or 21. Yeah, I think it should be 22. You can check it out in the textbook. Error handling.
Okay.
How to handle error. It's not just even. It's not just for uh, promises alone. Even for your codes. Error handling. You want to handle some errors. Maybe if it's not working fine, this is what you want to do. If it works as expected, this is what you want to do. If it doesn't work as expected, this is what you want to do. But I don't think we'll be using much of error handling in our React application. We may not do much of that. But we'll be using these promises very, very, very well. So before we go, please download this for next class. Go to this website, nodejs.org. Go to this website and install it. My version will most likely be an old version. I don't even know the version on my device. My version will most likely be an old version. So download, install. Whenever you want to do, you will need it for React, you will need it for Angular, you will need it for Vue. You need it for all of them. So please, before the next class, download Node.js on your device and install it. Okay. I also need to talk about a package manager. We have a website called npmjs. Not npmjs. Okay.com. You see, this website is the biggest package manager for JavaScript. What does that mean? You know that is a JavaScript library, right?
Yes.
Axios also is a JavaScript library.
Sorry, sir.
Yes, sir.
I think if you don't mind, can you please give a clear differentiation between framework and what was it called? Library.
Library.
Okay, okay. I like to liken a framework to a rich man's kitchen. I liken a library to a poor man's kitchen. Let me discuss the difference between the two. A framework has almost everything you need. Almost everything. If you need it, it's available. If you need that, it's available. If you need, like, it has a lot of things. Those things you need, and even those things that you don't need to cook. A framework has everything. A library only has the basic feature that you need to perform your tasks. Do we understand?
Yeah, which is
A library just has to, if it's a kitchen now, it just has the, let's say, the stove. It has, what else? Just the basic things needed to do your task, but not more. Now, that's, you may see that as a disadvantage, but I tell you it's an advantage. The advantage is this. In a framework, look at it. In a framework, remember, it has everything. Everything you need, they are available. Everything is available. Now imagine there is a knife in the kitchen and I don't need that knife. Or I'm already used to another knife, so I don't like that knife in the kitchen. But because it has been provided with the framework, I have no choice than to use that knife. For instance, if you're already used to using Axios, of course we just use Axios. If you want to use Axios with something like Angular, you need to now stress yourself because something has already been prepared for you to do the same thing. So you have no choice than to use what has been made available. If you don't want to use what has been made available, you now need to do a lot of work to ignore it. Do you get it? In a
Yes,
framework,
sir.
Yes, boss.
tools have been a lot of tools have been made available for you. If you don't want to use these tools, you need to even stress yourself not to use them. So most times you will even be forced. It's like you are being forced
Use library.
to use those tools in the framework because a lot of tools have been made for you. But in a library, it has only few tools. So when you want to do a lot of things, you need to bring them in yourself. You need to assemble them yourself. If I want to use Excel, I will download it and use it. Do you get it? If I want to fetch something from
Mm-hmm.
backend, I can download Axios. If I don't even like Axios, I can use jQuery to fetch something. jQuery, what's it called? Ajax, yeah. I can use Ajax if I want to fetch something from backend. If I still wish, I can use JavaScript fetch API so that I don't even need to download anything. It depends on what I'm more comfortable with. If I just feel I don't want to use this thing, then I can bring in my own tools because the library only provided me with just little tools. So for most of other that we serve the basic features. Now, another issue with framework is that in your application, you may not use a lot of those tools that have been made available. So it makes it somehow heavy. I just want to imagine I want to prepare just notice and have been supplied with a lot of things that all I just need is just little thing to prepare my notice and go. So since I don't need it, there's no if I'm using a library, I won't even have to download them at all. But if I'm using a framework, it has been made available for you. You only choose not to use them. Do we get the difference now?
Yes.
So, but framework has its advantage. It makes development of application faster. Maybe easier. Yes, maybe easier. It makes it easier because bulk of the work has been done for you. So just quickly get them, set them up, and the application is up. But in a library, you need to bring them in, arrange them, assemble them for your purpose. That's the difference between the two.
Okay. So,
So React JS that we are looking at is a JavaScript library. We still have to do a lot of things ourselves. So you see this feed, in this world of in this developers feed, we want to work. That's the fact. Developers really want to feel in control. That is why the likes of uh, we learning all of this. You could have used WordPress without even coming to this stress. But I tell you, developers want to feel in control. And the advantage of feeling in control is that in case you have problem tomorrow, since you did everything yourself, you quickly know where to touch and what to adjust. Do you understand?
mm-hmm.
So developers, in one of us, a lot of things have been made for us to make our life so easy. But we will intentionally ignore them and look for those things that will stress us just because we want to pay. Sometimes it even baffles me, like when I think about it. This thing is available. In fact, HTML, you can even build a website using drag and drop. The same way you use Microsoft Word. It's available in Dreamweaver. I think around 2015 or so, it's also popular. Dreamweaver. With Dreamweaver, you just do drag and drop and your HTML is ready. So you don't even need to write any tag and all of that. But then, developers ignore that and decide to focus on coding. So we want to work and I'm not surprised. So that's why React is even more popular than the likes of Angular because it gives you more control over your application, and of course you want to be in control. One, it also makes your application lighter since you don't need to. It doesn't contain a lot of things. It only has those things you need, not things you don't need.
Need.
So that's about this. Then the art is an SPA. SPA. We will talk about that in our next class. Single page application. It allows you to build SPAs. Single page application. We go deeper into what I'm. Well, let me see if we have time to talk about it. It's almost done. We talk about SPAs in our next class. But please download this thing.
Okay.
This sorry,
Understood.
this node.js.org. Download and install it on your device. Note that this I think I was talking about this npm.js is the biggest uh, JavaScript repositories. It has a lot of JavaScript libraries on it, a lot of them. So almost everything that we'll be downloading will be on this. We'll be downloading it from this page. Almost everything that we'll be downloading from this npm.js.org, and that's one of the reasons we need this node. This node.js will give us access to these websites in our codes. So, and you can also add your own library, but that will be when we get to level 4. You'll be able to build your own JavaScript library, and you can add it to the website also for other developers to use. If you want to build a JavaScript library, you can build it, and when you are done, you push it, and it comes to this website. You can even build some of them to play with. But when we get to level 4, you will see how to build a JavaScript. Like, it's so interesting, you know. It's good when other developers serve you. You can also choose to do something that will help the whole community. So,
So sorry, what level are we now? I'm sorry for this
okay,
for my question, sir.
this is the third one. Third one.
Thank you, sir.
This third one. Any question? Alright. Take care. Good night. Have a lovely night.
You too, brother.
Thank you, sir.
You're
Take care.
welcome.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. You're welcome.